The Empire's mistake. Therion, 3 always woke slowly. The twin suns had not yet crested the jagged horizon when Colonel Mara Yaga stepped onto the porch of her homestead, inhaling the cool dawn air. It smelled of dust, resin from the cliff pines, and the faint sweetness of her wife's xenoflora garden, an aroma she had learned to cherish. Peace, an unfamiliar luxury, but one she'd earned after 20 years of brutal service. Inside the homestead, she could hear quiet laughter, her son, Jax, and the creature that insisted on following him everywhere. A heavy thump shook the ground as the honey beast bounded around the building and skidded to a halt in front of her. Stocky, thick-furred, with eyes far too intelligent for comfort, the creature bared its teeth in something that might have been a greeting. "Morning, Grub," Mara said, reaching down to scratch the beast's armored forehead plate. "Behaving today?" Grub snarled affectionately, and then bolted back toward Jax's voice. The child squealed with excitement. Mara allowed herself a small smile. Every species guide insisted honeybees were vicious, stubborn, impossible to domesticate. Jax had simply shrugged and said, maybe they just need someone to love. Love. Mara had never expected to understand the word until she found her family on this quiet frontier world. Lyra emerged from the garden, hands covered in bioluminescent pollen, her gentle voice cutting through the morning glow. "They're getting restless," she said. "Jax wants to take Grub out to the ridge." She walked over, brushed dust from Mara's cheek, and kissed her lightly. "You're up early. Bad dreams." Mara looked past the fields toward the horizon. A soldier's instinct never fully dulled. Today the air tasted off. "Just habit," she said. A lie, but one Lyra didn't challenge. They ate breakfast together, simple grain cakes, fruit, and a suspicious lump of something Grub had stolen from the pantry. Jax proudly presented it as a gift, and Mara had to pry it gently from the creature before it swallowed the whole thing, plate included. Normal. Ordinary. The kind of morning Mara wished she could stretch into forever. But peace never lasted. It began with a distant hum, a low, metallic vibration in the sky. Mara's hand froze halfway to her cup. Lyra looked up, face paling. Jax didn't notice. He was wrestling Grub for the food scrap. The hum deepened, becoming a tremor. Something massive cut through the cloud line, casting a long, predatory shadow across the fields. Mara's blood ran cold. A Dominion cruiser. The Galactic Empire Dominion never visited small frontier colonies unless they were searching for something or someone. Mara was already moving. "Lyra, take Jax inside. Lock the doors. Don't open them unless it's me." Lyra grabbed their son. "Mara, I'll handle it." Her voice left no room for doubt. The cruiser descended like a falling blade, kicking up storms of dust. Soldiers poured out in black and gold armor, rifles ready. Their commander, Centurion Verixol, stepped forward, tall, metallic-eyed, and already sneering. Mara walked toward them with hands raised, but posture unbroken. "Therion, 3 is under colonial charter. State your purpose." Verixol didn't bother with pleasantries. "We are here for the xenoflora research. Your wife's lab contains unauthorized gene-modified organisms. That is a violation of Dominion Code 17, Bioweapons Regulation." He signaled to his troops. "Take her into custody." Lyra let out a gasp. "That's impossible. My research is public. It's all natural flora." "Save it for the interrogation chamber," Varric said. 2 soldiers seized her. Jax screamed, trying to reach her. Grub launched itself at the nearest armored leg with a feral snarl, teeth clamping down hard enough to make the soldier howl. "Tranquilize that thing." Varric snapped. Shock lances cracked. Grub dropped to the ground, twitching violently. Mara's comm shattered. "Let them go." "Restrain her," Varric ordered. 6 soldiers moved. Too many for a clean counterattack. Not without risking her family. Mara clenched her fists, fury burning through her veins as they forced her to her knees. Varric leaned down, voice soft and cruel. "You should have stayed hidden, Mara Yaga. The Empire has long memories." And then, just like that, they were gone. Lyra, Jax, the cruiser rising into the sky, leaving smoke and silence behind. Hours passed. The homestead burned. Mara didn't move until the last ember died. Villagers gathered at a distance, whispering, terrified. She finally stood, walked to the back of the ruins, and pulled open a hatch buried beneath the floorboards. The old armor gleamed in the firelight, black, cold, engraved with symbols none of these villagers would recognize. The armor of a legend whispered across 100 battlefields. The armor of the Baba Yaga. She strapped it on piece by piece, shedding the last traces of the quiet life she'd tried to build. When she rose, she wasn't Colonel Marave of Therion III. She was the nightmare the Empire once feared. A weak groan drew her attention. Grub staggered out of the smoke, singed, furious, eyes burning with animal rage. Mara knelt beside the creature. "You're alive." The honey beast pressed its head into her hand, trembling. "You want vengeance too," she murmured. Grub bared its teeth. Mara stood, lifting her rifle, her armor sealing with a cold hiss. "They took my family," she said. She looked toward the stars. "Now we take everything from them." The legend stirs. The stolen scout ship rattled as it broke into deep space, its engines old and temperamental. Mara ignored the warning lights flickering across the console. She had flown worse. She had survived worse. And she had carved her way through far worse enemies than the Dominion. But never before had they taken her family. Grub paced restlessly behind her seat, claws tapping against the metal floor. Every few seconds he let out a low growl, confusion mixed with fury. Mara understood the feeling. She brought up a hollow screen, replaying the Dominion cruiser's flight vector. "Varric's soul isn't subtle," she muttered. "He'll take them to Central Territory. Maybe hold them at a processing outpost first." Grub snorted. "You're right," she said. "We can't guess. We need information." She set a new course, one that would bring them dangerously close to enemy patrol routes. To get her family back, she needed to know where they'd been taken, and she knew exactly where to start. The Dominion listening post Kira. 7 hovered in orbit over a barren moon, small enough to be vulnerable, important enough to hold data on ship movements. It was lightly staffed. The Empire assumed no one would be suicidal enough to raid it. They had forgotten who she was. Mara drifted close under silent drive, letting the ship slide into the blind spot beneath the station's thermal scanners. She pulled on her helmet, the suit sealed with a quiet hiss. "Stay," she ordered the honey beast. Grub immediately tried to follow her toward the hatch. "No, stay." She pointed to the deck. "If things go wrong, you know what to do." Grub growled in protest, but sat barely. Mara popped the hatch and launched herself into vacuum. She moved like a shadow, magnetic boots clinking lightly as she clamped onto the hull. A small plasma cutter sliced open an emergency panel. Within seconds, she was inside a maintenance shaft, slipping through the guts of the station like a ghost. She didn't kill unless necessary. But when an armored Dominion officer rounded a corner unexpectedly, rifle half raised, she moved with lethal precision, twisting the weapon away and dropping him with a single strike to the throat. He fell silently. She dragged him into a closet and continued forward. Her heart wasn't in the killing. Her heart was in the rage. The data core sprawled before her, rows of glowing consoles feeding lines of information into a central AI hub. 2 technicians sat at the main terminal, bored, unaware of the fate walking toward them. Mara fired once, an EMP dart knocking both unconscious. In seconds, she was at the console, fingers flying across the interface. Her visor fed her encrypted code overlays from old Dominion backdoors she'd kept hidden even during her service years. Code strings unraveled. Flight logs appeared. Her pulse stilled. There it was. The cruiser that had taken her family had jumped to Sector Vantros, a region thick with military fortresses. From there, the log split. The ship made a second jump, coordinates sealed under a high-legged encryption lock. A prison facility. Top secret. Top danger. Top priority. "You really shouldn't be in here," a voice said behind her. Mara whirled, rifle raised. A towering insectoid figure leaned against the doorway, spiked limbs, armor of chitin, posture relaxed. Shardra of the Mantic clans. A mercenary. A killer. Once, decades ago, Mara had saved her entire hive from annihilation during the Okari conflicts. Shardra clicked her mandibles. You move loudly for a legend. And you move stupidly for someone who should know better, Mara replied. Shardra chittered amusement. I saw your ship. Saw you board. Decided to say hello. Also thought about claiming the Empire's bounty on you. Then I remembered you saved my brood mother. So, I suppose I owe you my life. She shrugged. Annoying, but here we are. Mara pointed to the encrypted coordinates. Can you crack these? Shardra's eyes flared. High-leg encryption? Interesting. Dangerous. Potentially fatal. She stepped forward. Give me 10 seconds. 8 seconds later, the seal broke. Cryos 9. A cold research facility near the Dominion's core worlds. Isolated, heavily armed, infamous for classified experiments. No one was transferred there unless the Empire wanted them forgotten. Mara's breath tightened. So did her grip on the console. They took your hive, Shardra said quietly, reading her expression. The Empire never learns. They took my family, Mara said. I'm getting them back. Shardra tilted her head. Then you'll need help. I work alone. Not this time. Cryos. 9 is death. She gestured to the consoles. Even you can't walk through that alone. Mara hesitated. Allies complicated things. Allies got in the way. Allies died. Then she remembered Lyra's scream. Jax's tiny hand reaching for her. Grub collapsing into the dirt. No. She would use any tool, any weapon, any ally, if it brought her family back. Fine, she said. But we move fast. Shardra bowed mockingly. As fast as the Baba Yaga commands. They returned to the ship. The moment Mara stepped inside, Grub lunged forward, fur bristling, teeth bared, ready to attack Shardra. Shardra shrieked, leaping backward. What is that thing? Mara caught Grub by the harness. A friend. Mostly. The honey beast continued snarling. Shardra's mandibles snapped in disgust. It smells like anger and poor life choices. Get used to it, Mara said, strapping in. We're going after Cryos 9. The stars stretched into thin, bright lines as the ship leapt into hyperspace. Hold on, Mara whispered to her family, somewhere in the darkness ahead. I'm coming. The Baba Yaga's march. The stolen scout ship exited hyperspace with a shudder, dropping them into the icy blue void surrounding Cryos 9. The research facility hung above a dead moon, an obsidian spear of metal and frost, its hull latticed with antennae and scanning arrays. A halo of orbiting gun platforms circled it like predators waiting to strike. Shardra whistled sharply. You weren't exaggerating. That place is a grave. Grub pressed against the viewport, fur bristling, growling at the sight of the station. Mara placed a hand on the beast's armored back. I know, she whispered. They're in there. Her visor fed her the station's security feed, patrol patterns, thermal signatures, turret rotations. It was worse than she expected. Every corridor swarmed with Dominion soldiers. At least 2 battalions. Armored drones perched like metal gargoyles along the docking rings. Shardra tapped her claws rhythmically. So, what's the plan? Walk in the front door and hope intimidation carries us. Mara didn't answer immediately. Instead, she reached under the console, pulling out a reinforced crate. Inside lay weaponry, dense, dark, and cold. Tools of her old life. Tools of the Baba Yaga. Shardra took a cautious step back. Yes, that plan. Mara armed herself with silent efficiency. Plasma blade at her hip, dual pulse pistols, explosive microdarts. Finally, she lifted a matte black rifle with a cracked grip. Old, worn, but lethal. The rifle of a legend. Grub hopped into her lap, demanding attention. Your turn, she murmured. The honey beast lifted its chin proudly as Mara secured the upgraded harness. Shock-resistant plating, a breaching spike along the spine, reinforced jaw guards. She clipped the final latch. Shardra stared. You're armoring the furry demon? He's not a demon, Mara said. He's family. Grub bared his teeth in agreement. Shardra made a low clicking sound. We are all going to die. Mara ignored her, turning to the console. We slipped through the maintenance blind spot on the lower hull. Section 6 Delta. Their sensors overlap everywhere, except there. It's an old Dominion flaw. I helped design that system. Charter's mandibles twitched. Convenient. I wasn't planning to assault the Empire's most secret prison back then, Mara said, sealing her helmet. But I'm glad I left a crack. The ship descended without broadcasting a signal, hugging the moon's shadow. Patrol ships passed nearby, their spotlights slicing through the darkness, but the scout vessel drifted silently beneath them like a drifting scrap of debris, perfectly invisible. At the exact rotation moment of Cryo's 9's lower ring, Mara fired a magnetic tether. The ship jerked to a halt, attaching to the hull. Mara opened the airlock. Charter shivered. Spacewalk time. Grub bounded forward enthusiastically. No, Charter hissed. You stay behind me, beast. Grub pushed past her. Mara cut open the maintenance hatch. The metal peeled like foil under a plasma blade. They slipped into darkness. The maintenance shaft was narrow, cold, humming with electrical currents. Frost bloomed across the walls. Charter's exoskeleton clicked nervously as she crawled. Mara moved without hesitation, pulling up a holographic map. 15 meters forward, then left into the exhaust grid. Grub leapt ahead. Stop him, Charter hissed. He'll get us killed. He knows the plan, Mara said. What plan? He doesn't even speak. He understands survival and rage. Charter muttered, great qualities in a house pet. They reached the exhaust grid. Mara extended a small device from her wrist, an override module. It emitted a soft pulse, freezing the cycle for exactly 60 seconds. If she mistimed this, they would be incinerated instantly. Move, she ordered. They climbed through. On the other side, the maintenance corridor opened into a dimly lit control walkway overlooking a processing chamber. A dozen Dominion soldiers stood guard below. Charter whispered, we take them quietly. No. Mara leapt over the railing. She struck the first guard with a knife-edge blow to the throat. Silent, clean. Grub crashed into 3 others, sending armor and bodies scattering like toys. Shardra vaulted down, slicing through 2 soldiers with her serrated arm blades. Alarms blared instantly. So much for stealth. The station exploded into chaos. Mara moved through the corridors like a storm, rifle snapping, boots slamming, armor absorbing glancing blows. Soldiers panicked. It's her, the Baba Yaga. She's alive. Fall back, fall back. Shardra laughed, slicing through a drone. I forgot how fun you are. Grub barreled through a sealed door by sheer force, jaws tearing through polysteel. Sparks erupted as he clamped onto a turret, ripping it from its mount. Good boy, Mara called. The beast chuffed proudly. They pushed deeper into the station, but a new voice crackled over the loudspeakers. Well done, Colonel Vey, Varric Soul said, voice dripping contempt. You've caused quite a spectacle. The High Legates will be delighted. Mara slowed. Where are they? She demanded. Oh, your family? Varric chuckled. So close, Mara. So heartbreakingly close. A screen lit above the corridor. Lyra, Jax, both bound, bruised, alive. Mara's breath shattered. Varric stepped into frame. If you want them, come take them. The screen went black. Mara didn't hesitate. Shardra with me. Grub front. The honeybee snarled. Mara readied her rifle. This ends now. They charged. The Empire that should have known better. The corridor leading to the containment wing shook with each explosion. Red emergency lights strobed across the walls, bathing everything in a frantic pulse. Smoke drifted from the shattered ceiling panels where Grub had torn through wiring. The scent of ozone, blood, and burning circuitry filled the air. Mara sprinted forward, rifle raised, her armor scarred from a dozen impacts. Behind her, Shardra clambered across the walls, blades ready. Grub launched himself ahead in powerful bursts, smashing anything in their path. Varric's soul wanted her to come to him. He was about to regret that invitation. They reached the final blast door, thick, reinforced, stamped with the Dominion crest. It hissed open remotely before she could breach it. Varric's soul stood inside the containment chamber, flanked by 2 squads of Dominion elites. Their rifles tracked her every movement. Between them, bound to an upright stasis frame, was Lyra, and beside her, terrified but unharmed, was Jax. Mara froze. Her son's eyes welled with tears the moment he saw her. "Mom!" Lyra's voice trembled. "Mara, don't. There are too many." "No," Varric interrupted, stepping forward. "There are exactly enough." His armor gleamed silver and gold, its surface crackling with energy, experimental design. Enhanced reflex amplifiers. Pulse charge gauntlets. He was fully prepared. He had planned for this. "Mara Ve," Varric said, raising his chin. "Final warning. Surrender. Kneel. You might live long enough to see the Empire spare your family." Chartres scoffed. He talks a lot for someone with such a fragile skull. Varric did not look at her. His gaze remained fixed on Mara. "Humans," he said coldly, "always think their emotions make them strong. But your love is your flaw. Your attachments are your weakness." Grub growled, low and murderous. Mara stepped forward. Slowly, quietly. "Then let me show you," she said, "what happens when you threaten my weakness." Varric smirked. "Fire." The elites opened up with a storm of plasma fire. Mara dove behind a support pillar, returning pinpoint shots. Chartres scuttled across the ceiling, slicing at rifles and severing cables. Grub charged straight into the barrage, armor deflecting the worst of the hits, jaws latching onto a soldier's leg and hurling him into another. The chamber became a whirlwind of combat. Mara moved like the ghost the Empire thought they'd buried, sliding under fire, firing short bursts, disabling targets with brutal efficiency. Chartres' claws tore through armor as drones swooped overhead, only to be dragged down by the furious honey beast. But Varric waited, patient, prepared. He wanted her for himself. When the last elite fell, Varric strode forward, cracking his gauntlets together with a burst of electric blue. "You and I," he said, "finish this now." He lunged, and he was fast, enhanced fast. His fist slammed into Mara's ribs with the force of a battering ram, knocking her across the chamber. She hit the floor hard, air torn from her lungs. Chartres leapt at him, slashing with both arm blades. Varric caught her by the throat and slammed her into the wall. Once, twice. She collapsed, gasping, chitin cracked. Grub launched himself next, but Varric anticipated it, pivoting and backhanding the beast midair with a charged gauntlet. The impact sent Grub crashing into a console, howling in pain. "Mara!" Lyra cried. Jack screamed, "Mom, please!" Varric turned toward them, raising his gauntlet, and something inside Mara snapped. She rose without hesitation, ignoring the pain, ignoring the blood filling her helmet, ignoring everything except the one thing that mattered. She moved faster than she ever had. She caught Varric's arm before the energy bolt could fire. His eyes widened. Impossible. Mara slammed her forehead into his visor. The glass cracked. She grabbed his other wrist and twisted until the metal squealed. He roared and struck her ribs again, but she did not break. "You should have left us alone," she growled. She drove her knee into his spine. He staggered. She punched through his visor. He fell to one knee, and Grub, bleeding, limping, furious, dragged himself forward and clamped his jaws around Varric's exposed shoulder, tearing flesh and armor alike. Varric screamed. Mara ended it with a single, sharp, merciless strike. He fell still. Silence flooded the chamber. Mara rushed to Lyra, ripping the restraints apart. Her wife collapsed into her arms, trembling but alive. Jax clung to Mara's leg, sobbing into her armor. Chartres limped over, coughing. "Next time, warn me before fighting a mountain." Mara half laughed, half shook her head. "You're still alive. That's your warning." The station alarms blared. Self-destruct sequence initiated. Chartres' eyes widened. "We overstayed our welcome." Mara scooped Jax in her arms. Lyra leaned on her. Grub shoved his weight under Lyra's free side, helping her walk. Together, they ran. The corridors shook. Fire erupted from broken panels. Entire sections of cryos. 9 tore loose, venting atmosphere into space. Mara pushed them harder, faster, refusing to lose them a second time. Shardra secured the evacuation hatch. Mara threw her family into the docking tube, then dove through as the station exploded behind them. Their ship blasted away just as Cryo's 9 erupted into a brilliant blue-white starburst. The Dominion's secret prison was gone. Hours later, the family huddled together aboard the ship. Lyra's head rested on Mara's shoulder. Jack slept curled against Grub, who snored loudly, exhausted but content. Shardra, repairing her cracked armor, muttered, "You know the Empire won't let this go." "I know," Mara said. "They'll send fleets, assassins, legates, a war machine." "I know." Shardra tilted her head. "And you're still going to fight them?" Mara looked at her sleeping family, then at the stars. "No," she said. "I'm going to make sure they never touch anyone else's family again." The engines rumbled to life. The Baba Yaga had returned, and the galaxy was about to learn why she was feared.